here's Brody Brazil.
Some of you already understood the entire premise of this video before you even clicked on it. I do realize that. I also understand there's going to be others of you who are trying to put together the pieces here. Wait, St. Pete getting revenge on the Rays? But what does that photo of a minor league stadium have to do with any of this? That's not Tropicana Field. That's not the stadium that the Rays proposed and then backed out of. So what exactly is going on here? And where is that, by the way? That is Al Lang Stadium. That's a 7,500-seat stadium on Tampa's waterfront. It's been there for many decades. It's been a staple, been around since 1947. It's been remodeled several times, but most recently in 2015. For so many years, it was exclusively a baseball park. I think the Rays had spring training there. Minor league teams played there. It's in a cool location. I'll show you the aerial footage in just a second, but for 60 years, pretty much, it was a minor league baseball park. Well, in 2011, they converted it to being a soccer pitch. And so it's still got the stadium shape, like behind home plate, fitting a baseball diamond. It doesn't necessarily look like a soccer stadium. It obviously was a baseball stadium, but it does well enough for soccer. And since 2011, it's been the home of the USL's Tampa Rowdies. All right, so file that away in your memory bank for just a second. Here's the overall lay of the land. There's Al Lang Field kind of on the left. There's the harbor. The airport is right there. Downtown St. Pete is right to your left. So all of this is kind of centrally located. It's in a great spot. It's in a prime location. And that's why the city of St. Pete, which I'll eventually tell you about, is considering redoing this area, making it more of an arts district. They're considering replacing Al Lang Stadium with, I think, an amphitheater and other things like that. The St. Pete mayor, Ken Welch, he's the one that's kind of the driving force behind this. He's considering a remake of the Waterfront, which would do away with Al Lang Stadium. But the Rays don't play there, right? So how is this getting revenge on the Rays if you get rid of Al Lang Stadium? Hold that thought for a second. The remake of the Waterfront, like I said, would include the demolition of the stadium, which a lot of people don't feel great about. Al Lang Stadium is kind of a staple. It has survived. It has evolved. It's always been around in most people's lives, so they don't really want to part ways with it. It's also kind of valuable, right? It seats enough people to have a good-sized event there. The soccer team plays there. The city owns the stadium, to be very clear, so they can kind of do it with it whatever they want. But the Rowdies have a lease, and they've had one for the last 3 years. It expires here at the end of this calendar year, 2025. So this would kind of be the time where you say, all right, your lease is expiring, and maybe we sign a 2-year lease to bridge us to the start of construction or groundbreaking, or maybe they just say, hey, we're done doing leases. We're going to start building this right now. These are the renderings. You can kind of see that amphitheater right there, parallel to where my finger is at. And so this is kind of what they want to replace that whole area with, that kind of corner there where the harbor is and where the waterfront is and St. Pete and the airport's right there. So you understand what they're trying to do here. So all of this put together, like, how is this St. Pete getting revenge on the Rays? Well, the Tampa Rowdies are owned by Stuart Sternberg, who owns the Rays. That's right. St. Pete is considering getting rid of the stadium that they own, that's got historic value, and it would essentially evict Stuart Sternberg's USL soccer team. This is all interesting, right? And when you put it together that way, there's a lot of things to think about. First, let's assess what we know. Number one, Mayor Ken Welch and the city of St. Pete, they are very well documented as not being happy after the Rays backed out of the deal, right? The Rays proposed it. They pushed it. They were upset because Hurricane Milton delayed the approvals on this deal. But eventually the city and the county, they signed off on that gas plant district ballpark. Almost $2 billion. The city and the county were in to give hundreds of millions of dollars. I think it was a total of $600 or so million, but the city and county were in, and then the team at the last second backed out of the very deal that they proposed. And so the city and county had put forth a ton of effort. They'd gone over this multiple times, public input. They said afterwards they kind of thought they wasted their time on this now that the Rays were the ones who pitched it and then backed out. The mayor flat out said he would never negotiate again with Stuart Sternberg as owner of the Rays for anything in St. Pete. In the meantime, Tropicana Field, because it has to be under contract repaired by the city of St. Pete, it has now been approved for at least right now just the roof to get replaced. $22.5 million. They still need another like $25+ million approved for all the internals, the interior, the infrastructure inside the stadium to get repaired and replaced. $22.5 million right now is just for the roof. But that's already underway. That's already been approved. You can imagine they're already ordering the materials. They're hoping to have this done by November or December of this year. Brand new roof for the Trop, even if for just a couple years. Maybe the soccer team goes to play there. More on that in just a second. See, we're building in this video. There's going to be a crescendo at the end. So there's also the sentimental aspect of Al Lang Field. You would have to think that through all this, if the mayor's trying to push this through and get rid of a stadium to evict the soccer team or to make the soccer team go play at Tropicana Field to make it more valuable, but the sentimental aspect of Al Lang, like that's going to be defended by politicians, by members of the community. I don't think they're easily going to wipe it off the map and say, all right, we're done with this and it's been around for a while, we're just going to bulldoze it. It still has value, it still has use, and it has some history and background. So I don't know that it's going to be demolished right away. Here's what we don't know. Is this really the city simply trying to make life difficult for Stuart Sternberg's soccer team? I mean, Ken Welch is upset. And Ken Welch has some power and some control over this, and at least offering up the idea, starting this process, whether it happens or not, right? Just to make it difficult on Stuart Sternberg. Is this a case of revenge? What else could be behind this? A mayor wanting to tear down a stadium that has existed, that the community likes, that has a value, that has a tenant, that makes some money at this point? I understand it's not just the stadium, it's that entire kind of area and cove of the waterfront, but why this? Why now? Right? It seems a little bit suspicious after all the conflict and the rub with the Rays that now you're trying to get rid of one of Sternberg's other properties, its home, as Al Lang Stadium. Maybe they think, the politicians do, that you could get more use out of Tropicana Field if you had the baseball team and the soccer team both sharing it, obviously in the spring and summer months. Maybe that's part of the equation. All right, we're gonna do a 2-for-1, and if we're really going to fix up Tropicana Field, we're gonna make two teams call it home and really get our bang for the buck. What we also don't know, do the Rowdies already have alternate plans? It's been said that they're aware of all this. This is no surprise to them that obviously their lease is ending, they don't have a new lease, and who knows what happens with this site. But are they actually prepared to move into something brand new as soon as next year? So is St. Pete actually getting revenge on the Rays? It kind of seems and feels that way, but I'm going to need some more explanation on this. Like St. Pete and the mayor, Ken Welch, he better have a good, and they better have a good reason behind why they're really aiming to do this. Otherwise, if there's no specific reasoning, it does kind of seem like they're out to get some revenge on Stuart Sternberg's USL soccer team. Hey, that's the end of this video. Really appreciate you for making it all the way here. Thumbs up down below. That greatly helps me and this video and this channel. And one more thing, if you would, go down there and hit that subscribe button. That way I can definitely see you back here next time.